In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to build a fully automated Instagram assistant that will store and organize all of your content, help you caption and add hashtags to all of your content. You can also have AI generate captions for you based on your descriptions, based on the images themselves or transcriptions you add. Not only that, the automation will automatically post your images, image carousels, and Instagram reels based on a schedule that you've set. Pretty cool automation. Let me show you how this one works before we get into the build. To demo how this one works, I'll pop over to my desktop. So here we are on my desktop. I'm going to pull over some sample files we can drop in here. I have a PNG file, I have an MP4 file, and I have two PNG files that will get posted as an image carousel. I'll drop these in, I'll click this button. Now we can watch these files come into Airtable. This database will organize and store all of your files. Now we can create some captions. So for this first one, I just want a description of this image. Come down to generation actions where I can say generate image description. Another automation will run and pop it down in the generated caption section here. We can see that just came in and we have an image description. If I go ahead and add hashtags, I can say art and Photoshop. That will pop in all of those hashtags related to those keywords. If I expand my full IG caption and hashtags now, we see we have the image description plus the hashtags ready to be posted to Instagram. Okay, let's work on these other two. Why don't I do a voice transcription? Leave myself a voice note. This is a clip from a new video series that I am working on, trying to figure out how many clicks it takes to start a business. I am clicking my mouse button one time for every new follower that I get. So help me build a new business. I can send that message, come over to the generation actions and get that audio transcription. There it is, came through just as I spoke. I can add some hashtags for this one: TikTok, tech blog, automation, and AI. If we take a look at the caption generated here, we have my voice transcription and all of those hashtags. Let's finish off this last post. I will type in a custom caption here. I want to add some hashtags. I'll come to the generation actions, set it to caption from input. That'll take this input and the hashtags as well into a caption. This is my new caption right here with the hashtags. So I'll slide on down and I can choose the account that I want to post to. I'll choose my place to make things account. This is my testing account, and I'll choose that same account for these other two here. Then set the status to publish for each of these posts. We can see now that these are in the publish queue without having to wait for my weekly scheduled post. I'll come into make. This is the automation that will post to Instagram. We have those posts ready to publish, waiting on that schedule. So I can come down here, click run once. This will create that first post, the regular image post. Let's go check my Instagram and we can see that image post has posted. We've got the image description with those hashtags added in there. Let's post the next one. I'll come back into the automation. Again, just manually triggering the automation instead of waiting for that scheduled post. I'll click run once. Let's check my Instagram account and there's my brand new reel. Let's post the last one. All right, there it is, carousel post. We can check both of those images came through. This is a fully customizable system, so you'll be able to add in any hashtags you want and connect any accounts that you have to be able to post to whatever accounts you want to use. So before we get into the build, I just want to mention that I have a brand new school community where I will post up all these automations. I'll put the link to my school community down in the description of this video. If you jump over there, join the community, you have access to the Airtable templates and the make.com blueprints for free. Whether you just want to jump over there, snag the templates and start using the automation, or pick them up so you can actually start truly learning how to build this stuff. My community is a growing community and I'm very dedicated to solving any problems, issues you might have during your automation building process. Feel free to head over there, ask me any questions, and I will help you out in your own builds. But for now, let's get into this one. All right, so we are going to jump right in. We are in Airtable. This is my Airtable dashboard. I'm going to come up here to create a new base, start from scratch. Come over here to get rid of that starting guide, and I'm going to hold shift, click on these 3 fields, right click on any of them, then delete these 3 fields. I like starting with a completely blank base. So this table, we're going to name content, and we can name this view content workflow. You can double click on any of these elements and edit them to rename them. I'm also going to click the little checkboxes right here, right click into these records and delete these records, just so we get a completely blank slate here. I'm also going to come up and name this base automated Instagram assistant demo. Looks good. So we're going to create some new fields by clicking this plus button here. Let's name this first field to file name, and we can leave it as a single line text. Next field, click the plus. We're going to create an attachment field. We'll call this file, and it will be an attachment. Create the field. Let's click the plus. Next field will be a single select called status, and this will have a couple options in here. The first option, just to keep track of your content, this will be new. Then we can have in progress, needs editing, and publish. You can name these options whatever you want. This is just how I keep track. You can also click on the little circle and change the color. So I'll set these colors something like that, then create the field. The next field, click the plus. We're going to name it custom caption. This will be long text, and create the field. Let's create a new field. This one will be called generation actions. It's a single select generation actions, and our options here, we're going to have a couple things we can do when we use these generation actions. The first option we'll set to idle. Second one, caption from input. The next one, image description. And the last option can be get audio transcription. Okay, then I'll just color these. We'll create the field. Okay, and then actually let's go back in between these two right here. After the custom caption, right click on that one. We're going to insert a new field to the right. This will be voice transcription, and it's a long text. Cool. Now the next 3 fields, create a new field, click the plus up there. This one's going to be created time. We can just create that field. The next one, this is going to be last modified time. Create that field. Click the plus one more time. This is going to be a formula for the record ID. Just for our testing and running automations, it's nice to be able to copy and paste the record ID. Just type in REC and the record ID function will pop up here. Click on that, and then be sure to add the closing parentheses, create the field. And that's really all we can do for now in this table. We're going to create some more tables and connect to some other records and fields. So we have to create those tables first. Let's come up here to this plus to create a new table. We'll start from scratch, and we'll name this table accounts. This is going to store all of your Instagram accounts that you want to post to. So we can rename this grid view all accounts. And this is where we can put your account information. This first field we can rename account name. These next 3, I'll just select them, delete these 3 fields. We'll start from fresh, and I'll delete out this third record right here. I'm going to have 2 accounts I want to put in here. This first account is my art account, Sleepy Sea Monster, and this other one is my testing account. This is where I'll be posting to for this video so we can test out some of these automations. This is my place to make things account. So the next field, I like to put a link to the actual account just so I can access my Instagram accounts straight from this assistant without having to open a new tab and all that stuff. So this will be profile URL, and this will be a URL field. We can create the field, and I'll just paste in my URLs here. These will be the links to my actual account. If I click on that link, it'll take me to my actual Instagram account here. So next one, my place to make things, I can link that one. The next field, this is an email field. You can put in the associated email address for these accounts, so you can keep track of all your accounts, all the profile links, and all the actual emails that you have to sign in. You could even put your password information. This Instagram assistant can be an overall database to help you with all of your Instagram stuff, not just posting, right? So you can keep your account information, your passwords, all of that stuff in this accounts tab. and stay organized that way. So I'll skip over that stuff. You can add that in there if you want. We have the email field, the next field. This is the most important field in this accounts tab. This is the meta account ID. We'll name it meta account ID, and it can remain a single line text. That's it for this accounts table. Let's come up here to add a new table, start from scratch. This table will be called assistants. These are all of the ChatGPT assistant instructions that we'll need to generate captions. We can name this grid view all assistants. So this first assistant, this one is called Instagram Caption Writer. You can name these whatever you want, but this one will write our captions. The next one, I've named it Image Analyzer. This one will actually look at your images and write an image description if you want to use that. And the next one is system instructions for ChatGPT to behave the way that we want it to. Let's add in the information for these. We can leave the notes field. Let's name it Assistant Instructions. It will remain a long text. We'll get rid of these two fields, delete them, create a new field. This will be a formula and a record ID. Type in REC in the formula field. That will come up with the record ID formula. Make sure you add that closing parentheses, create the field. Now this field as well, we're going to add more stuff to, but we haven't created that next list yet. So let's go do that. Head over to the plus, create a new table from scratch. This one is called Prohibited Language List. This will be a list of words and phrases that you want ChatGPT to avoid. You want ChatGPT to sound more like a human, sound more natural in its writing. So I'll just name this grid view list. I'll keep the notes. I'll delete these two fields and I'll rename this field to phrase. This table is set up, but we need to add the words in here. I have created a Google Sheet with all of the prohibited words. You can actually just copy all of those words and paste them straight into this first field. I'm going to go do that and paste in all of those words. You want to say expand this table, yes, continue, and all of those words will populate in there. I'll put the link to that Google Sheet in the description of this video. You can grab this list from there. Okay, so now we have our prohibited language list. We have to connect it to our system instructions. So let's head back over to the assistant, and we need this system instructions to gather those prohibited words and understand not to use them. So we need to add in all of our assistant instructions here. So you can copy what I will paste in here. This is the prompt, the text prompt for the Instagram caption writer. So I'll show you a trick here. You can take a screenshot of this text. I'm going to head over to ChatGPT, drop this screenshot right in there and say, write out this text as it shows. There we go. Now we can copy this text, come back into the assistant and paste that again right there. You can do that same thing for the other one. So I'll just paste in from my other project this prompt. You can copy this one. This is for the image analyzer. And for the system instructions, you can copy this one. We're going to add to this the prohibited language list. I'm going to create a new field after this assistant instructions field. I'll insert a field to the right. This will be a link to another record, and this will be the prohibited language list. So this one, I do want to allow linking to multiple records. We're going to link to all of those words and phrases in that list, and I'll create the field and we'll link to the phrase just so we have it as text. Then click add one field. So now we've got these two fields. We've got the prohibited language list connection here. We can add in all of our words that we want to avoid. And when we add in one of these phrases, you can see that phrase will pop up as text in the phrase field right here. So the way that we're going to do this is automatically add all of these phrases to this system instructions as they get created. So let's come back into the prohibited language list. And now you can see we have a linked field to our assistants table. So I'll just name this field system instructions link. In this field, we can easily connect each word and phrase to our system instructions. So I'll click the plus here to add that assistant, the system instructions assistant. Click on that one. And then we can just drag down this little icon right here, kind of like Google Sheets. We can populate all of these records with the same information. So I'm just going to drag this all the way down and get all of our phrases linked to our system instructions. Just to double check that, I'm going to go into the Assistance tab, check the system instructions, and you can see we do in fact have all of those words and phrases linked to our system instructions. Cool. So the other thing we need to do with the prohibited language list is automatically add this system instructions link to every new record that gets created. So we need to set up an Airtable automation for that. Let's come into automations. We're going to add a trigger when record is created. We can name this automation new entry to language list. So when a record is created in the table prohibited language list, we want to do an action, and we're going to update a record. The record will be in the prohibited language list and the record ID. We can click this plus right here and we'll just say Airtable record ID. The field we are going to update is the system instructions link. For this system instructions link, we actually have to find the record that we want to link. So let's come back up here. There's a little plus. You can click on that to add another action in between, and we want to find records. The record we want to find is in the assistance table. We'll search for records based on condition, add a condition where the record ID, this is why we create that formula field, is, let's go find that actual record. I'll come back up to the data into the assistance table and we can check our record ID. We want this record ID for the system instructions. Copy that, come back into automations so we can see find a record where the record ID is system instructions record ID right there. We can set the maximum record limit to 1. We only want that one record. And back into the update record action, we can now find that record ID for the system instructions. Let's click the plus and we want to look in that find records actions. Click on that, scroll down, click field values, and we can find that record ID right here. Let's go ahead, flip on this automation, come back into the data. Let's come back into the prohibited language list and let's just add a new record. Don't even have to type anything in here. We can just click the plus and wait for that automation to pop up. There it is. We don't even have a new phrase in here, but that new record was created, so it's automatically connected to our system instructions. If I just type in something like this, come back into assistance and check that language list here, all the way down at the bottom, we should have this prohibited language right there. Cool, so I'll just come back in, delete that out. We've got our prohibited language linked to our system instructions. We can actually close down this language list or hide it so that it's not in our way. We only really need to access that table when we're adding new language to the list. Same thing with the assistance. We don't need to access this table often unless we want to add new instructions at some point or change the prompts around at some point. So we can hide this assistance table and only concern ourselves with the tables that we actually are going to be doing work in. We're going to add another table here. This one we'll start from scratch and call it hashtag presets. We'll name the grid view all hashtags. We can name this field, name it preset name. We'll delete these two fields, keep the notes, and I'll rename the notes to hashtags. So this is going to be a very simple table. I'm just going to go ahead and paste in here all of my presets and then we can talk about it. So what I've pasted in is a preset name associated with a group of hashtags that I regularly use. For example, let's just take a look. I want to expand these records so I can see more of the hashtags. I'll come up here to this button, set it to medium just so we can see a little bit more of what's going on here. And so my preset name art is referring to all of these hashtags that I regularly use associated with the art niche, right? Art, artists of Instagram, that kind of thing. Same thing for digital painting, hashtag digital art, digital painting, concept art, and so on. So you can build out your list of very specific custom hashtags only relating to one small specific area. But the beauty of this is that we can add multiple presets to a caption, to a post, right? So you'll see how that goes as we build it out. For now, you can fill out this table with some presets and hashtag ideas, right? You don't have to completely build it out, but just get some hashtags for your niche that you commonly use and some preset names in here. All right, so that is it for the hashtags table. We can hide this table now as well. And I will, after all, just go ahead and hide the accounts table just so we can really focus on what we're working on. It's going to say 4 hidden tables, but we can access them whenever we want just from this dropdown. So I'm back in the content table. We're going to add a bunch of new links to other tables in this content table. So let's come over here. After generation actions, we're going to add a new field. So right click on generation actions, insert right, and we're going to add a link to another record. This will be in the assistants table, and we do not want to allow linking to multiple records. We'll create the field. We'll link to the assistant instructions and add the field. Name this as the first assistant name. I can double check, come back into my assistants, copy this name, Instagram caption writer, come back into content, double click on this assistant's link field and name it Instagram caption writer. Click save, and I'll name this field, it's the assistant instructions. Let's name this caption writer instructions. Click save. We're going to do the same thing for the next assistant. I'll now right click on the Instagram caption writer instructions field, insert a field to the right. This will be a link to another record. The assistants table again. We do not want to allow linking to multiple records, and we'll create the field. I'll add a lookup field, assistant instructions, add one field, and I'll rename these fields the same way. So double check, we'll come into the assistants table, copy this assistant name back into content, double click this new assistants field and rename it to image analyzer. Same thing with the instruction field, double click that, and I'll name this to image analyzer instructions. Click save. We're going to do that again with the system instructions. I'll right click on the image analyzer instructions field, insert a field to the right. This will be a link to another record. The assistants table, do not allow linking to multiple records, create the field. We're going to look up the assistant instructions and the phrase from the prohibited language list. Add those two fields, and I'll name this one to system. Click save, double click this one and name it system instructions. Click save, and then we have our phrase from prohibited language list, and we can just say delete this out and just say that for the name. Great. What I'm going to do in all of these fields is add those assistants. So in the first one, Instagram caption writer, we can click the plus and add the Instagram caption writer. You can now see the instructions will automatically pop up here for that Instagram writer prompt. Same thing with the image analyzer. We'll click the plus here, find the image analyzer, click on that, and the image analyzer instructions will automatically pop up. Same thing with the system. We'll find the system instructions, and those system instructions automatically pop up, as well as the prohibited language list. Awesome. Now, just like we did with the prohibited language list, we automatically need to get these assistants when a new record is created. We don't want to have to click in here and grab all of our assistants and manually add them into the record. We want a new record to pop up with our assistants. So let's come up to automations. We'll come down here, click the plus to create a new automation. We'll call this one new entry to content. Add a trigger when a record is created. When a record is created in the content table, we'll add an action. We want to find records. This one will find Instagram caption writer. We will look in the assistants table. We'll find a record based on condition. And that condition is where the record ID is. Let's go take a look. Come back to data, come into assistants, and that record ID right here for the Instagram caption writer. We can copy that. Come back to automation and paste that record ID right there. We can set the maximum record limit to 1. We'll add a new action, update a record. The record we want to update is in the content table. The record ID is going to be the Airtable record ID. The field that's going to get updated in the content table is going to be the Instagram caption writer. We click the plus over here. We want to make sure we look in the find records, scroll down, click on field values, and find that record ID. There we go. So we want to do that same thing for all of the other assistants. We can just come up to this find records right here and duplicate this action. We'll duplicate it one more time. And in this middle one here, we can name this one find image analyzer. We're going to look in the assistance table based on the condition where the record ID is. Let's go find that record ID, come back up to data, the image analyzer, copy that record ID back to automations and paste that record ID right there. Great. Same thing for the system instructions. We'll come into this find records action. We'll look in the assistance table, find a record based on the condition where the record ID is, back up to data, system instructions, record ID right here. Copy that back to automations and paste that record ID here. There we go. So we've found all of our assistants now. We just need to update that record with these two assistants here. So let's come into this update record action. We want to update two more fields. So we'll choose the field image analyzer, click the plus, find records in the image analyzer here. Scroll down, click field values, find the record ID. Great, same thing, choose a new field. This will be the system, click the plus, find, and it looks like we forgot to rename this one. We want this one right here. We'll double check it. We'll just click on that one there. Field values, record ID. So let's double check this one. We've got the condition where the record ID is this here. Come into the data, check it. For the system instructions, that is correct. Back into automations, and we can rename this one, find system instructions. Now that it's set up, you won't ever have to get in here again, but it's nice to have everything named properly in case you want to change things around in the future. You know what is what. Great. So everything is set up. Let's come up and flip on the automation, come to the data, and we can test that out. Let's come over to the content table. Just click the plus here to create a new record. And once that automation runs, we'll see our assistants pop up here automatically. There we go. Let's double check. We've got everything in the correct fields, caption writer, image analyzer, system instructions, and the prohibited language. Looks good. So every time a new file pops in here that you're going to be working on and creating captions and posting, all of your assistants automatically pop up in here and start doing work. Now we still need to create a couple more linked records here. So just after the prohibited language phrase field, I'll right click on that field, insert a field to the right. This one is going to be a link to another record, the hashtag presets, and I will allow linking to multiple records. We want to be able to select multiple hashtag presets. I'll create the field. We want to add a lookup field to hashtags and add the field. Now we have hashtag presets and the hashtags, so we can rename this field here to hashtags. Save it, and now we can add hashtags to our content workflow. If you click into this field here, you can click the plus and add any hashtag presets you want. I'll say art. You can see those hashtags pop up in the hashtags here. But what's great is you can add multiple presets. So if I come back over to the presets, I can click the plus again and add more hashtag presets. So when I check my hashtags, I'll have all of those hashtags presented in here like that. Great. We're going to make a similar connection for accounts. Right click on the hashtags field, add a new field to the right. This will be a link to another record, and we're linking to the accounts. We do not want to allow linking to multiple records. Create the field, and we'll look up the meta account ID for this one. We want to bring that meta account ID into our content workflow. Add the field. So we've got our accounts and we've got the meta account ID from accounts. To make it more readable, you can rename this field to choose account, and this one can just be meta account ID. All right, so that almost does it for the content table. We're going to add a couple more fields in here. Scroll over to this area just after generation actions. We can right click on that field, insert right. We're going to add generated caption field. This will be a long text. Create the field. Then we can scroll down to hashtags, kind of where we were. Right click on hashtags field. We'll insert a field to the right. This will be full IG caption plus hashtags. This is going to be a formula. And for the formula, you can copy what I have here. Same thing, you can take a screenshot of this, pop it over to ChatGPT, or hand type it out. Let's get that formula in there and create the field. So that does it for the content table. Let's move on to the last table we're going to need in this build. Click the plus, start from scratch, and call this publish. We'll create a couple grid views in here. This first one we can rename publish. Come down here to create a new grid view. We'll name this one published records. Create that view. Let's create another grid view. We'll name this one queued for deletion and create that grid view. Great. So in this publish table, we are basically going to need all of the same fields from the content table. Let's head back into the content table, come down, create a new grid view, call this all data. But in this content workflow view, we're going to hide some fields that we don't need to see to do our work. So come up here to the hide fields button. You can just run through these with me to toggle off some of these fields. All right, we can turn off all the assistants. You can choose to turn off hashtags or leave them on. I'm going to choose to turn them off. I'll turn off the created and last modified. We can hide the record ID field. I didn't actually name this one, so it's got this default name calculation. We can name it record ID. But now this content workflow view will have just the relevant fields that we need to work with. I just want to move some things around. I'm going to grab this status field and move it down to the end. And actually we can hide the meta account ID field. I'll right click on that, hide field. So before we dive into the publish table, one automation I like to put in here is for the status. When a new record is created, it populates with all of the assistants, but it will also come up as status new. So let's go back into automations. We'll find the new entry to content automation, and we'll update that record with that simple status update. So let's choose the field. This will be status, and we'll set the status to new. Click update, go back into data. We can test it by clicking the plus. This will create a new record. All of those assistants will get created, but we won't see it in this view. And we can see that status has been set to new. I'm going to delete out these two records I created for testing. Just select those boxes, right click and say delete selected. I'm going to delete out this text I put in there. Let's just test out this full IG caption, make sure that's working before we dive into the publish table. I'm going to remove these hashtags. We can see that the ones I have selected are popping up in there, but I'll remove all these hashtag presets. Come into the custom caption and type in typed text, voice transcription, voice text in the generated captions, generated. Then we can add a hashtag. Then once we expand this, we should see all of those elements in this caption. We've got the typed text, voice text, generated text, and the hashtags popping up in the full caption. So when we caption our posts, we can type in custom text that we want to use here. We'll be able to use a voice transcription, and we'll be able to generate from these two inputs, generate text that will also be added to the caption. Pretty cool. So that is working fine. I'll delete everything out, and we've got a nice clean content workflow view that we can use. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is duplicate this content workflow view. Let's come up to this button to hide and show fields. We're going to hide hashtags, generated caption, generation actions, voice transcription, custom caption. Then we're going to show meta account ID, created, last modified, and this calculation, which we'll rename appropriately to record ID. Then I just want to move around some of these things. We'll move the meta account ID here, double click on this calculation field and actually rename it appropriately to record ID. Now I'm going to come up to this first field, click on it, hold shift on the keyboard and click on the last field here. Copy everything, come into the publish table. I'm going to delete these three fields, then come up to this little square here, click on that and paste. This will paste in all the fields. We want to expand the table, click continue. And now we have all of our fields from the content table. Let's adjust some of these fields. So come grab this field and slide it over to the beginning. This is going to change the primary field to choose account. We can say, okay, we're going to rename this one to file name. We'll keep the file. This one we can keep as is or simply name it caption. It's the finished caption with the hashtags and everything. In this one, we need to change the status options. We'll have in publish queue published and delete record. We can get rid of this last option. I'm just going to change some of these colors and click save. We have our created modified time meta account ID. We can change this one. Can change it to a single line text, click save, and the record ID, we do need to change to a formula and get that record ID, type in REC, click on that record ID and be sure to add the closing parentheses and click save. Now we have our publish table set up and we can sort these things by ready to publish, has been published, and queued for deletion based on the status here. So on this first record, just to test this out, I'm going to set this status to in publish queue. I'll set this one to published and I'll set this one to delete record. Now in this, we only want to see things that need to be published that are in the publish queue. So we need to filter where the condition status is in publish queue. Now we'll only see the records that need to be published. Come over to this view. In this view, we only want to see the records that have been published. So we can come to filter, add a condition where status is published. And now we'll only see the records that have been published. You can review everything that's been already posted to Instagram. Then finally, in queued for deletion, we only want to see the records that are going to be deleted based on a schedule. We'll set up all that scheduling. Come up to filter, add a condition where status is delete record. Cool. So that sets up the publish table. Let's come up to automations, come down here to create new automation, add a trigger when a record matches conditions in the table content condition when status is publish. So we've set the status to publish. That will trigger this automation and send this record to the publish table. We also want to add some other conditions in here. We'll say, and when the full IG caption and hashtags is not empty, meaning we have caption and hashtags, and when meta account ID is not empty, meaning we have our account selected, we've got that meta account ID, and we also want to check, we'll add a condition, that the file is not empty. We actually have a file that can be posted. So all of these conditions are met. It'll get sent to the publish table. So now we can add some action, create a record. We'll create a record in the publish table, and all of these fields we will populate with the information from the content workflow. So we'll need the file name, click the plus, scroll down, we'll find the file name, choose a field, the file, click the plus, scroll down, file, choose a field, caption, click the plus. This will be the full G caption and hashtags. Choose a field, choose account, click the plus, scroll down, choose account. Then you can see where this is headed. I'll run through all of these. Status, we set to in publish queue, choose a field. And what is extremely important is this meta account ID. Add in the meta account ID, click the plus, scroll down, and we'll find the meta account ID. So this one we'll have to click into the value, and we want that meta account ID value. All right, let's add another action. This will be run script, and you'll need to copy in this script. I'll just delete out this console script here. You can copy what I have here. Make sure that this word is the name of your table you're using for your content. Mine is called content, and so this word is content. Go ahead and copy that script there. I'm also going to copy this variable, this word with the squiggly line under it. We need to add as an input variable. So I'll copy that word, come over, click input variable, paste that in there, click the plus and set it to Airtable record ID. Click finish editing. We can flip on the automation. Let's name it, send to publish queue, and then flip it on. If I come into the data, into the content table, we have this temporary view right here. We can now delete or right click on it, delete that view. Now in my content workflow, I can create a fake record right here. I'll just give it this record name. this caption. Choose an account. I can put in my account and we see the status is set to new. I like to add in another little quality of life automation here that when you've done some work on your post here, then the status will change from new to in progress. So let's build that one real quick. We'll come into the automations, come down, create a new record, add a trigger. When a record matches conditions in the content table, the condition is when full IG caption plus hashtags is not empty. We'll get that update. So when you put any input, that will update to in progress. Just a visual, completely unnecessary automation, but it's nice to just keep track of what you're working on, what's new, and what you've worked on, and what is ready to go. So when full IG caption plus hashtags is not empty, we'll add an action to update the record in the content table. The record ID is the record ID. The field is status, and we'll change the status to in progress. Let's name it, set to in progress, and we can flip it on. Come back into the data, we can test that. I'll set this one to in progress. I'll create a new record. We'll watch the automation pop up as new. There it is. And no matter which input I choose, the custom caption, the voice transcription, anything I type in, this will update the full IG caption and hashtags. And if there's something in this field, this will automatically update to in progress. So I'll just delete out this test record. Great. So the next thing we need are the auto deletion automations for the publish queue. We're going to set these to be automatically deleted based on a schedule. Let's come up to automations. Come down here to create automation when a record matches conditions. Conditions in the publish table. We'll add a condition when created time is a number of days ago, 10 days ago. We will update a record. Table is the publish table. Record ID is the record ID. And the field we're going to update is the status delete record. We can name this automation queued for deletion, flip it on, but we can also add a condition where status is equal to published. Of course, you can set these days and intervals to whatever you want. Let's just duplicate this automation. I'll right click on it, click duplicate, queued for deletion copy. We can rename scheduled deletion. Now, when a record matches these conditions, we'll just say 20 days ago, and it's queued for deletion. That way we have no chance of losing any records we still want to keep and organize. Let's delete this action, add a new action, run script. We'll add in that script for deletion that we had before. But we need to change that table from content to publish. My table is called publish. This word needs to be whatever your table is called for your publishing. So same thing again, copy this variable, paste it into the input variable name over here, add the value, click the plus, set it to Airtable record ID, click finish editing. Let's go ahead and flip this on. I'll come into the data, publish. I'm going to edit these two fields. I'll double click on that one, change it to created time, click save, confirm. I'll double click this one and change it to modified time and click save. Now we have a created time that is reflecting when this record was added to this table. All right, excellent job. We are halfway through this thing, finished with the Airtable stuff. We could head over to make.com, start working on those scenarios and build out the rest of our automation. So let's switch gears and head over to make.com. And this is my make.com account. I'm going to come up here to create new scenario. And right away, I'll come up to name this Instagram content drop demo. Start this one off with a webhook. You can type in webhook in the search bar. It's going to be a custom webhook. Click add. You can name it whatever you want. Content drop demo. Click save. That's going to give us our webhook. We can click OK and move on to the next module. Click the plus here. This will also be a webhook response. And we just need to type in a simple script here that will close out a window that pops up when this webhook is triggered. So you can just type in what I have here, just like this. This is a simple function to close out that window. Click OK, add a new module. This will be Google Drive, and we want to search for files or folders. Now, if you haven't used make.com and you haven't set up your Google Drive connection, this is a process here to set up your connection in Make Just click this add button, follow the online help to set up your connection. It's very straightforward reading that online help to get this set up. Once your connection is set up, we can navigate to the actual Google Drive folders we're going to be using. So let's take a look at my drive. All right, this is my actual Google Drive, and in my drive, I have this folder called Automation Dump. Inside of Automation Dump, I have this Instagram content drop folder. So you're gonna wanna create a folder that you can navigate to, and then you're going to share that folder publicly. You're the only one that's gonna have the link, so you're the only one that will have access to it, but you'll need to share that folder publicly. Let's jump back over to Make. In Make, I can navigate to that actual folder in my drive, Automation Dump. In Automation Dump, I have my Instagram content drop folder. Click on that, and now we want to retrieve files. Don't need to search, and we can set the limit to 20. This is the number of files that we can load up in here at one time. Then click OK. Let's move on to the next module. Click the plus. This will be Google Drive. We can download those files. Download a file. We want to enter that file ID manually, and the file ID, click in here, will be file ID. All right. Add a module. This is going to be a router in the flow control. It's also up here in the corner. Flow control router. On this first route, this module is going to be Airtable. We want to create a record. Can create a new connection. Click add. Connection type Airtable OAuth. This will be Instagram Assistant Demo. Can name it whatever you want. Click save. Now it's going to ask us to authorize that connection. Add a base. We want to select the base we're working in. I am working in the Automated Instagram Assistant Demo. Grant access. Now we have that new connection, and we can choose our base. Select the base, select the table, content, and now we can populate these things in our content table with the information from Google Drive for those files. So we're going to add the file name. That will be the name from Google Drive, the file, add an item. The file URL will be the web content link. We don't need to add the file name. Again, we have that already in our record for us in Airtable. We want to skip all the caption areas, but we do want to unmap the generation actions. Set generation actions to idle, hit OK. Now we have to put a condition here on this route to say, this is what's going to happen if these conditions are met, and this is what's going to happen if these conditions are met. So let's click on the little wrench here. We'll set up a filter where the name from Google Drive, click on this operators right here, does not contain case insensitive, the word carousel. Okay, so when we bring in images and videos, they'll come in, just get added nice and neat. But when we add image carousels, we have to identify which images are actually going to be used for the multiple image carousel, right? And so we actually have to name those files with the word carousel somewhere in there so that we can distinguish, yeah, these are the carousel files, and you'll see how we do that later on. So the name does not contain carousel. It will do this route. And likewise down here, click on this wrench, set up a filter. This will happen when the name contains case insensitive carousel. You can click OK. So when we bring in carousels, we have to do things a little bit differently. All right, let's create a new module here. Click that big plus, and we need an aggregator. It's up in the corner here or in the flow control array aggregator. For the source module, we need to choose that Google Drive search for files and folders. For the target structure type, we cannot add this in yet. We don't have a target structure. So let's just click OK. Click the plus here to add a new module, and this will be Airtable. We want to create a record. Want to choose that connection that we set up, Instagram Assistant Demo. Choose your base, choose the table. It'll be the content table. File name, we can name this one manually carousel post just to keep track of the carousel. So we'll name that file carousel post. We can add the files here. Now we want to get the URL from the aggregator. Now that we have a target structure, we can come back into the array aggregator. So let's come down here, click OK, click on the array aggregator, and we can set that target structure type to file. We can set this URL. It'll be the web content link. The file name will be the name. Click OK. Come back to the Airtable module. Now, instead of adding that information in this file section right here, we can map what comes out of the aggregator. So click this map button, and we can map this array. Great, so we can scroll down and just unmap the generation actions, set that to idle, ready to go for us. Click OK, and that sets up the first make automation for the content drop. There's another thing we have to do on our desktop. I like to run this automation from the desktop, just dropping in all my files into a folder and running this automation so that they all pop up into my database. I'll come over here, flip on the automation, come down here, click save and back out. Now, to run this from the desktop, I need to create some shortcut to my Google Drive. So the easiest way to do that is just to add a shortcut to your file browser. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using Finder. This is my actual Google Drive folder. Here's my automation dump folder. I have access to all of my Google Drive folders, and I can just make some shortcuts to these folders on the desktop. So I'm going to come into automation dump, find my Instagram content drop folder, and make a shortcut. Or on a Mac, you make an alias, and I'll send this folder to the desktop. The other thing we need to do is create a button to run this automation in the desktop. So to actually go back into this automation, I'll click into it, click into the webhooks and copy that web address. Can cancel or click OK. Now I'll back out of it again, come up to a new browser window and paste in that webhook. I'll just hit enter on the keyboard. Now that'll try to run the automation, but there's going to be an error. We'll get this blank screen basically telling us that the automation failed. And that error happened because there is nothing in my Instagram content drop folder. So that Google Drive module in make will have errored out. If I go and check that automation, yes, indeed, here it is. Here's that error. That's just telling us we have nothing in Google Drive. We can put an error handler here on this module to ignore that so it doesn't shut off the automation. Let's go ahead and do that for now. I'll just right click on this Google Drive module, add error handler, and click break. We can set the number of attempts to 1 and the interval to 1. Click OK. I'll click this auto align button. Now, if you click this red bubble here, click this text. We need to allow storing of incomplete executions. Click that, click OK, click save. And one more time, we'll back out of this so we can watch it run. I'm going to come back up to my blank browser window here, and I want to create a shortcut on the desktop to this link right here. I'll just drop that down on my actual desktop here. I'll be able to drop all of my content into this folder, click this button to run the automation, and all of my files in this folder will automatically get uploaded to our Airtable base. Pretty cool. So I grabbed some files to try this out with. I've got a PNG file that will just get uploaded as a single image. I've got 2 images here that will get uploaded as a carousel. It's key to note again that we need to label our carousel images with the word carousel somewhere so that the automation will recognize we need to upload these images as a carousel. And then I have a video clip that will drop in there as well. So I'll go ahead, grab all of these and copy them into my Instagram content drop folder. Then I'll move these out of the way. So we have to keep in mind that this is a Google Drive folder. We have to wait for all of these to actually upload to Google Drive before we run the automation. So once these have uploaded, we can click this button to run the automation. Let's jump back over to Airtable and I'll come up to the content table. Look at our new files come in here, nice and neat. I'll go ahead and delete this first record we were testing with. And now we have our brand new files in here ready to be edited. Awesome. They all came in as new. Looks good. We can build out our second automation. I'll come back into make. I want to leave this automation open so we can watch it run. So I opened a new window where I can create a new automation. I'll come up here, create new scenario. Now this scenario will run all of the caption generation that we need to be doing, right? Start this scenario off with a webhook, custom webhook. Click add, we'll name it caption generation demo, name it whatever you want. Click save, click OK, add a new module. This will be another webhook response. We'll type in that same script. In fact, we can copy and paste that little script. I'll come back into my content drop demo, come into the webhook response and copy this script right here. Make sure I back out, come into my new automation and paste that script right here. I'll click OK, then click save. I'll name this automation caption generation demo. And while I'm here, I'll just come down and flip it on. Let's create a new module. This will be Airtable get a record. We want to find that Airtable connection. Mine is Instagram Assistant Demo. Choose the base, choose the table, will be the content table, and the record ID we need to get from the webhook. So we need to head back into Airtable. I'll just type in a default record ID right here and click OK, then click Save. Let's head back into Airtable. Let's set up that new webhook automation. So I'll come up to the Automations tab, come down to Create New Automation. I'll name this Caption from Text Input. Okay, add a trigger when a record matches conditions in the content table with a condition when generation actions is caption from input. Let's add another condition where generated caption is empty. This way we won't accidentally generate captions over something that is already in there, something that you might actually want. So only when it's empty, we'll generate something new. Let's add an action. We're going to run a script. Now, same thing, you can copy this script that I'll paste in here. Let's delete out this console script. I'll paste in this one here, and you can copy this script just as it is here. Same thing, these red squiggly lines mean we have variables that aren't added in yet. So I'll add in this first variable here, copy it, click add input variable, paste it in for the name. Next one, record ID, copy it, add input variable, paste it in for the name, and action, copy that, add a variable, paste it in for the name. Now for the webhook value, we need to get that from the make scenario. So I'll jump over to make, click on this first webhook, copy that web address to clipboard, can hit cancel or OK, come back into Airtable and paste that webhook right there. For the record ID, we can click the blue plus and choose the record ID. And for actions, we're going to set this variable. We'll call this variable generate from text. Now with variables, it's important to keep the capitalization in order. You can capitalize whatever letters you want, but you have to remember which letters you have capitalized and which letters you have not. This form of capitalization is just best practices for coding. So I have capitalized the F and the T in this variable. Generate from text. So this is it for the script. We can click finish editing, come up and flip on the automation. Now we need to do this same thing, create these automations for the other actions. We'll just duplicate this automation right here. I'll right click on it, click duplicate, and I'll call this one analyze image. Now for this one, when a record matches these conditions, we need to change this one to image description. So we are generating that image description when generated caption is empty. And for the script, click on this action, come down here, click edit code. And the only thing we need to change here is the action. We're going to change this value to analyze image. Come up, click finish editing. We'll do this one more time for the next automation. I'll come up and flip this one on, then duplicate this automation, right click, click duplicate. Let's name it get transcription, and we'll say when a record matches conditions, when generation actions is get audio transcription. And we can actually remove this right here. We're not generating anything. We're just getting that audio transcription. Click on this action, click edit code, come down and say get transcription. I'll click finish editing and flip on the automation. Now we've got these three actions we can set up in our make scenario. I'll go ahead, jump back into make, and we'll set up these three action routes. So the next module is going to be a router in the flow control router, and I can just click the plus one more time. We're going to have three routes for those three actions. For this first one, let's start with ChatGPT. So you can type in ChatGPT in the search bar. We want to create a completion, and you're going to need to set up your OpenAI connection here. Click this add button, follow the online help to set up your connection. Pretty straightforward, following the online help to get ChatGPT connected to make.com. Once you have your connection set up, you can fill out the rest of this module. We're going to create a chat completion using the GPT-4o mini. Right away, we'll just set the max tokens to 0. Click add message, and we're going to add in the values from Airtable into these areas here. So to get all this information to come through, we're going to need to run this automation to get this information from Airtable into ChatGPT. So for now, I'll set this role to system, and I'll set this message content. I'll just type in some stuff for now and click OK. Come down, click Save. Let's jump back into Airtable, go into the data, and we want to fill some of this stuff out so that we have data to come through. So custom caption, I'll just add some text here. I'll add some text into the voice transcription. And something we can do is actually take into account in this caption generation what hashtags we want to use. So the automation will take in the custom caption, the voice transcription, and the hashtags and write a caption based on all of that information that is concise and cohesive. So what I'm going to do is grab this hashtag presets field and slide it over. We want to be aware that we need to add hashtags before we generate any text or captions, right? So we can add some hashtag information. I'm going to slide down and grab the record ID. Okay, so we have the record ID in here. We just have it hidden. I'll come up to the hidden fields, show the record ID. Let's jump back into make. Now we need to fully run this automation. I'm going to right click on this webhook, say run this module only. This will now wait for that message from us. You can see that it is running and waiting for our input. I'll come back over to Airtable and set the generation action here to caption from input. Jump back into make, and we can see that came through. We got that record ID and that action generate from text. Click on this Airtable module. Let's delete out this placeholder. And here we have the dynamic record ID we could add in there, and click OK. I'm going to click save. Now we're going to run this module once to get that information all the way through. I'll come back into Airtable. I'll find this record ID and copy it. Come back into make. Right click on this module. Run this module only and paste in that record ID, click OK. Now we have that record coming all the way through into make, and we'll be able to see that information in ChatGPT. So I'm going to come back into the ChatGPT module, and we can add in that information into these message content fields. So this one will be the role of the system, and we're going to use our system instructions. So we want to drop down this little arrow right here, find the system instructions. There it is. And we could add to the system instructions phrases from the prohibited language list. We want everything in this array, so we can just click on that one there. Let's add a message. This will be the role of the user. I like to put the message content in quotes just to signify user information. And so our first user input is going to be the custom caption right here. I'll hit enter on the keyboard and just space things out. So the next user input is going to be the voice transcription right here. Add in another line. Then we're going to get the hashtags. We need to drop down this little arrow and actually get that hashtag data right here. I'll hit enter on the keyboard just to space things out. Add another quotation mark. Let's scroll down, add another message. This will be the role of the assistant. For the message content, we're going to add the assistant instructions. And we have our assistant, the Instagram caption writer instructions right here. Let's drop this one down and actually grab that text data right there. Click OK. ChatGPT is set up for generating text captions. I'll right click on the module, click rename, and just say generate caption. We can create the next module. This will be Airtable, and we're going to update a record with that new information from ChatGPT. Select the same connection. Choose the base, select the table, content table. The record ID is going to be that record ID from the webhook. And what we want to update, we'll set generation actions back to idle, ready for the next operation. And we'll update the generated caption with the result from ChatGPT. Great. Let's come down, click OK. Click save. Let's move on to the next operation here. But before we do that, we actually should set up our filters right here. So I'll set up this first filter, click the wrench, set up a filter. And this is where we will designate which action should be performed. I'll check the action. If it is equal to generate from text, we will perform this route. Click OK. I'll go ahead and set up the next filter, set up a filter. This one where the action, we can double check what our actions are back in Airtable. So I'll head back over to Airtable, come into the automations, and just remember what I set those action variables to be. So I'll double check the caption input. That action variable is generate from text. The analyze image variable, that one is analyze image. I'll copy that variable name, come back into make, and we'll check if the action is equal to analyze image. Click OK. We'll set up the last filter, set up a filter, check where the action I'll come back into Airtable, come to this automation here, and I'll check that action variable name, copy it, come back into make, and paste that variable name right there. The action is equal to get transcription. Click OK. Now we can finish off these routes. I'll click this one right here. This module is going to be ChatGPT. We're going to use ChatGPT Vision to analyze our images to create that image description. Select that. The prompt will be the image analyzer instructions here. We can drop this down and get the data, the text for those instructions right there. Click add image, specify image URL, and the image URL will be from the file. Drop this one down. We can see that file URL right there. Cool. And for the model, we're going to use the GPT-4o, and we'll set the max tokens to 1,000 tokens. That should be enough. Come down, click OK, create a new module. Let's actually name this module. I'll right click on it, click rename, and this one is analyze image. For the next module, we can just clone this Airtable module here. So I'm going to right click on it, click clone, and stick it to this ChatGPT module. Come in, tweak some of the settings, just make sure the connections are all good. We have the record ID set up. We want to set generation actions to idle, but the generated caption result, let's delete that out. We want the result from our new analyze image ChatGPT module. Click that, click OK, and we can move on to the last route here. Now, this is an interesting automation. We can integrate Slack to pick up our voice notes and caption all of our Instagram posts by speaking into Slack and sending that voice note to our Airtable base. Let's take a look at my Slack account. I've got some channels over here that I've created for different automation purposes. I only use Slack for automation, sending messages to myself, and completing tasks, things like that. So I've created a new channel here called Instagram Caption Demo. This is a private channel. I'll be sending messages, voice notes from my phone to this private channel. Let's head back into Make. So this first module is going to be Slack. You can type in Slack. You can set up our Slack connection, click Add, name your connection, and click Save. It's going to ask you for authorization. Click Allow. Now in the query field, we can set a trigger word. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to search for the word caption, set the limit to 1. We'll sort by timestamp and in descending order. So we're going to look for messages with the word caption that are the most recent. Click OK. We're going to need to send a message to that Slack channel so we can search for it in this module and continue on. I'm going to pull out my phone, open up Slack on my phone, send a voice note to that channel. Now keep in mind, we need to say that trigger word that we set up in the query. I put in the word caption, so I'll need to say that in this voice note. So I'll say something like caption. This is a voice note test. We're getting the transcription from Slack. Then I'll hit send and send that voice note to that Slack channel. We have to run this module to search for a message and grab that message. I'm gonna right click on this module, say run this module only, and we see that it has pulled through that voice note message. Let's create a new module. This will be Slack. We can download that audio file. So we'll download a file, keep the same connection, and we can find that URL private download. This will be in the files. You can drop down that little arrow and find the URL private download. Then click OK. All right, create a new module. This will be ChatGPT. We're now going to use ChatGPT Whisper to create a transcription of that audio file. We can use the same ChatGPT connection. We're already grabbing that Slack channel file. Click OK. Now we can update Airtable. I'll click on this module, click clone, stick it down, and edit the fields in here. Record ID is the same. We want to set generation actions to idle. Delete out this result here, and in the voice transcription, we can put in that text from ChatGPT. Click OK. There we go. We are set up with this automation. I want to add in one other module here. Right click on this route after this filter, add a module. This one will just make sure those audio messages are getting processed through Slack. We'll set a delay just to make sure everything's coming through. This delay can be 30 seconds. wait 30 seconds, and then search for that message. I'll click save. All right, we are almost there, almost finished. Let's create that next automation. I'll just pull up a new window, create a new scenario, and the first module is going to be Airtable. We want to watch records. This will allow us to set up a schedule for posting. I'll find that connection, Instagram Assistant demo, choose the base, choose the table. This will be the publish table. The trigger field will be created time. The label field will be file name. Set the limit to 1. We only want to make 1 post every time this automation runs. And the view is the publish view. Click OK. Let's come up and name this. I'll call mine schedule post to Instagram demo, come down, click save. And while we're here, we might as well just flip on the automation, add a new module. This is going to be a router in the flow control, and we're going to have 3 different routes. Okay, we need to set up some conditions here in the filters to handle each of these routes. Let's set up this first filter. Click the wrench, set up a filter. We're going to check the file itself. So drop this down. We're going to check the MIME type. Let's click on this operator section, and we want to set contains case insensitive the word image. So we're going to look for file types that are images and pass them through this filter. We want to set up another rule here. So file types that are images and the file name, let's click on the operators again, does not contain case insensitive the word carousel. Again, we're going to handle our carousel images by actually naming those files with the word carousel somewhere in there. Click OK. We'll set up the next filter. Now this one is the opposite of that one. So this one we can say where the file name contains case insensitive the word carousel, and we'll click OK. For the third filter, the file MIME type contains case insensitive the word video. We want to set another rule, click add, and the file name does not contain case insensitive carousel. Most likely if it's a video, we won't have to worry about it, but just in case, we'll set that up. Now let's handle these routes. This first module in the first route is going to be Instagram for Business. We want to create a photo post. Now you're going to have to set up your meta connection. This is where you create a Facebook page, connect it to an Instagram account. Everything's connected in the Meta ecosystem. Look at the online help on how to set up that Meta connection. You can click add to create a new connection for Instagram, then follow the online help to set up your Meta connection. Once you have your Meta connection set up, you can choose which page to post to, and that page is connected to an Instagram account. So I can choose which account I want to post to. This is where we actually find those Meta connection IDs. I'll click this map button, and that number right there is the ID we're going to copy, come back into Airtable. In the data, find the accounts table, and for my place to make things account, I'm going to paste that Meta account ID right there. Same thing, while we're there, I'll come back into make, I'll unmap this, find my Sleepy Sea Monster account, then map it again, and find that page ID right there. Come back into Airtable and paste that page ID just like that. And now we've connected our Instagram accounts to Airtable with that Meta account ID, right? So I'm going to come back into make, and we want to actually map those in there now. I'll delete out these numbers and I'll plug in the Meta account ID. So now whatever account we choose in Airtable, it's going to dynamically add that account ID into this page field right here, and we'll be able to post to that account. So for the next field, it's important that you take a look at these photo requirements. Every image that you post to Instagram must meet these requirements. I've had a lot of people run into errors when they're posting to Instagram with their automations simply because their images don't meet these requirements. It shows right here that we need to have all of these requirements for each image in order to post them to Instagram through the API. These are just Instagram's requirements. Nothing we can do about it. So make sure all of your images meet these requirements. So this photo URL, we're going to grab this from Airtable. This is the file URL, and the caption is going to be the caption from Airtable. Let's click OK. And that's all we really need to post to Instagram. but we're going to update our publish table. We're going to add an Airtable module, update a record, choose the base, choose the table. It's the publish table. Record ID is the record ID from that first Airtable module. And we're going to update the status. Let's unmap the status and set that to published. Click OK. We can move on to the carousel posts. This one is the flow control iterator, and the array is going to be all of the files. So we'll grab that array, click OK. Let's add a new module. This will be flow control array aggregator. The source module will be that iterator. OK. Then we can add a new module. This will be Instagram for business. We want to create a carousel post. Now, same thing, we can map our meta account ID. I'll click this map button, delete out this string of numbers, and add in the meta account ID. The caption will be the caption. For the files, we need to click this map button and add that array. Click OK. We can come back into the array aggregator, set the target structure type to the Instagram for business carousel post files. We set the media type, image, the photo URL. Again, every image that you save must meet these requirements. That photo URL is going to come from the iterator. We'll take those URLs, then click OK. We need to update our record. I'll clone this Airtable module, stick it down here, and double check all the settings. Record ID is good. We want to set the status to publish and click OK. All right, let's set up the Reels post. We need Instagram for business. Create a Reel post. We want to map the meta account ID. I'll click that map button, delete out this string of numbers, map the meta account ID. Now I'll just come down, make sure I get this in here, add the caption, and we can choose to share to the feed or not. I'll click yes. Now, same thing with the video requirements. Your videos must meet these Instagram requirements. I've had people saying that their automations don't work, but their videos have just not met the requirements and so can't be posted. Make sure your videos meet these requirements. The video URL field right here, we're going to look into the file and we're going to grab the URL. Click OK. Now we'll update our Airtable. I'll just clone this module, stick it down here and double check. We're setting status to published and click OK. Click this clock. Set up your schedule. Otherwise, you might just start posting stuff right away. So I'm going to come in here. Instead of every 15 minutes, I'm going to set this to post on days of the week. We'll say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Set a time to, let's just say 8:45 a.m. Sure. All right. Now that we have that posting schedule, I'll click the auto align button, click save, back out. I'm going to come back into Airtable. I'm going to come to the content tab, and we could post all of these new files to Instagram right now. And there it is. Well done building this thing out. You are a champion making it through, building your own automated Instagram assistant. This was a long one to get through. I really appreciate you liking, subscribing to my channel. So if you're truly interested in learning how to build automations, I highly recommend joining my community. We've got a bunch of people already in there and we're all learning together. I'm in there answering questions. I'm in there asking questions, seeing what people are struggling with and what they want. And if you have any suggestions for automations that you want to see and want to use, we can build them together. We can work on them and make them happen. So hopefully I will see you over in the community. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.